Okay, I think we're live. The hardest part of all this content stuff, honestly, is like when you're using multiple things regarding sound. Like, for example, I'm using the camera in front of me to record like super nice 4K video because if I were to just do this podcast on like my computer, I would use the webcam, which is only 1080, and I'm pretty much doing like a new setup every time I record something nowadays, just because I can. But the hardest part is syncing up the sound with the video. Because more often times than not, I'm doing sound from an external device because it just sounds better than if I were to just do like, or if I were to just plug like a lavalier mic in my camera. Anyways, you guys don't care, and I don't blame you. So, what we are going to be talking about today is a really popular question that I've done a few segments on, but I wanted to do a podcast on this just so I can really dive in as much as I possibly can in detail regarding how I personally recover after outings. Um, I think that's just actually going to be the title. That's it. That's the one. How I recover after outings. So I think everyone wants to know, just based off questions like, what is the secret to optimal recovery? Like, what is the secret to being able to go out there every time you are called to pitch? And obviously, this is different for position players, but every time you're called to pitch, what's the secret formula to be able to feel good every time you toe it up, right? And if you guys have been listening to my stuff in the past regarding some topics similar to this, then you probably already know where I'm going to go with this. So I want to first and foremost hammer out the pre-rolls and the sponsors, and then we'll dive into the topics. So for pre-rolls, I'm going to include some links that you guys can go to because I'm still getting emails for questions regarding some of these things that are already out there. I'm going to include all these in the show notes that can be found therobbyrowshow.com/recovery. That will be the page in which you will find the show notes, which I'm going to include all these links. And if you don't care about the links, then I'm sorry. You're going to have to listen to about 73 more seconds worth of links that you don't care about. First one, Ask Robby Row. It's going to be a page in which you can literally ask me any question. I don't respond to Instagram DMs, not because I'm just quote unquote that guy, just because there's so many of them and I really don't have the time, especially right now because I am grinding my face off to complete this ebook and I'm already 35 pages, 36 pages in. It's the complete guide, not but a complete guide to pitching mechanics. I'm really excited for it because now that I dive kind of more deeper into the details, I'm looking at it and thinking I could do a separate one for coaches, like coaches and instructors, and then a separate one for players, just because I think that could be really valuable for guys. Um, but yeah, regarding the Ask Robby Row platform, I'll include that link. It's therobbyrowshow.com/ask. But I apologize ahead of time if you DM me. I'm getting a lot of guys that reach out like pissed off at me because I'm not answering their DMs. Because I finally ended up taking the thing out of my bio that says like no DMs, email. I took it out because they only give you like 140 characters. I'm so not on track. Sorry, guys. Second link will be the search engine. So this is where I put a lot of time and effort into like developing a search engine on my website because I put a lot of time and effort into developing a ton of content for you guys. There is hardly ever a time in which someone reaches out to me with a question on a thing that I haven't touched on. So please, guys, I love when you guys reach out, and I love that you're showing the initiative to like want to consume information that will better you as an individual. But it's frustrating just to not sugarcoat it. It's frustrating when all the stuff is out there, and you just gotta check it out. So the search engine, you can literally go to my website and search any like keyword that you want. So therobbyrowshow.com/search. Is there sound echoing on your guys' end? No? I'm using a new PodTrack P4 recorder just because I want to use this new Shure microphone, and I'm not quite familiar with it, so I apologize. And then also I get asked a ton of questions regarding plyo balls and like routines and stuff like that. I literally developed an ebook for it, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have it out there for free. So I literally have a free ebook all on like my plyo ball routine, like what plyo balls I use, what drills that I use with plyo balls. It's pretty dope, and it's free. So I'll include that link in the show notes as well. Again, show notes, therobbyrowshow.com/recovery. And I'll also have things on the show notes that kind of sum up this entire podcast. Okay, so on to the sponsor, Oates Specialties. Oates Specialties has been a partner of this podcast and me, essentially my brand, for about 2 years now. And I just recorded a unboxing video. I guess it's an unboxing video. And it was fantastic because they have the dopest products. I literally just ordered from them a balance beam. It's a foam one, but we talk all the time in regards to the importance of stability within the pitching mechanics, and that's a whole chapter on in my new ebook. And so when I was like browsing through I usually order like every 4 months from Oates Specialties, and I was like browsing like, what do I need, like all this, and kind of just wanting to set some stuff up in the lab. And I came across the balance beam, and I was like, that is absolutely fantastic. And it's almost shaped like, not shaped, but it's got a feel of like an Airex pad. So it's amazing. I cannot wait. Probably going to do all my training exercises on it tonight. I also got a melee club. You can check out the unboxing. I'll actually write that down if you're wanting to look at that unboxing video. It's about 8 minutes long. I'll include that in the show notes as well. Let's go unboxing. But yeah, if you are a fan of Oates Specialty stuff, or if you want some plyo balls, weighted balls, bell clubs, shoulder sphere, like you name it, I can hook it up with a discount. Robby 10, case sensitive, capital R OBBY 10. Okay, now let's get on to the show. But before we do that, we're going to do a new thing that I found out I can do on my new PodTrack recorder. Watch. That's right. Thank you guys. Oh, thank you so much. Oh no. Stop. Okay. All right. Shut it. I don't know, but I'm easily entertained. Okay, so how I recover after outings. Again, this is going to look differently for everybody, but hopefully there's some things that I can talk about within this episode that that really just makes sense to you, that maybe you haven't heard before. Maybe that's just a new way of thinking, but I want to make as much logical sense as possible in regards to like recovery and essentially like feeling optimal every single day. I think the disconnect and the almost the misrepresentation of how baseball players or how pitchers in general should feel is like sore. Like we should always be grinding, and our arms should be sore all the time because it's an unnatural motion. I've done a lot of content on how I don't believe that is essentially true. I believe that we're fully capable of throwing overhead and feeling good while doing it. So in regards to recovery, I think the first and foremost thing is like, I'm big on mindset. I'm big on like placebo and all those things. If you're in this headspace of like accepting that you should be sore every single day or every single day after you throw, get that out. Like, not saying that it's not true or accurate. Like I understand that you might be sore, but again, I'm big on like the mindset and the placebo effect of like, you don't need to fully believe that you're always going to be sore after you pitch. Like, I know that sounds weird, trust me, but if you're in that headspace, which I know a lot of people are, get out of that headspace. You don't believe the nonsense that it's a for sure absolute thing. That throwing is unnatural and it's an unnatural movement, so therefore you're going to automatically respond negatively to it. Like, get out of that headspace. Okay, so within this episode, I'm just going to be talking about things that I do that I put a huge importance on. And like I said, maybe there's some things that I talk about within this that you can go, oh, that makes sense. Like maybe I can apply it to my routine, or I can implement that here. And then who knows, it could work, and it could be great. Now, I always encourage people within their routines to trial and error with them some things, just so you can be absolutely sure that XYZ didn't work and maybe XYZ did work, right? Like, you don't really know until you know. Everyone's body's going to be different. Everyone's going to respond to stress and different stimuli different. And I think as an athlete and as an individual, it's your responsibility to make sure that you can be absolutely sure that whatever it was didn't work, or whatever it was does work. Okay. And as you can imagine, these things don't develop overnight. Okay. So first thing, the biggest, most important thing when we look at recovery is not just something that is done after you perform. Okay. Recovery is your life. It's the same thing that I look at, like when I look at dieting. Like, it's not necessarily just quote unquote a diet. It's like your way of living. It's a lifestyle. Okay. So for you as an athlete, seeking out information that will give you an edge, or in this particular case, you're listening to this podcast because you want to know more about like recovery and maybe implement some of these things that I'm talking about. The biggest thing is to understand that it's not a secret pill that you can take after you throw. It's not a certain like training circuit that you can do before you go to bed that will automatically make you feel good. Recovery is 24/7, super intentional things that you can implement and do throughout your entire day, not just your entire day, the day you throw, not the entire day, the day after you throw, or the one day before. Like, no, this is every single day, especially if you guys listening are pro guys, even college guys. You guys know how much of a grind it is to put the uniform on every day and just grind your faces off. Like, it does wear on you, but that's when you need to be extremely intentional with how you're mapping out your days. And yeah, I say this all the time. It's always going to come down to how bad do you want it? That's always my follow-up question when people ask questions like, hey, how do you throw harder? How do you command the baseball better? How do you recover better? All these things. It's not easy. You got to really want it. Now, how bad you want it is not just something that you can just say and put into words. Like, you got to show me with your actions by being extremely intentional with your training, with your throwing, with your progressions, your variations, or your drill progressions, like all of these things, like all your mechanical deficiencies, all your movement capacity restrictions, all your strength deficits, like all of these things play a role into optimizing you as a baseball player, as an athlete, or even as a human being. So for me, my foundation when it comes to recovery is I have a complete, like, utter curiosity / respect for like my body. And I'm always pushing the limits on how much I can do and then still feel good. I'm a huge advocate of like stress adaptation, like stressing the organism, right? Our body is an organism. And if we want to, do these things that we talk about, being able to recover and being able to throw a whole lot or throw more than everyone on the team and be reliable out of the bullpen, or like play every single game or whatever it is, then you need to stress the organism. You need to stress the body, and stress isn't necessarily a bad thing. I know it gets demonized within the baseball industry because we look at stress on the elbow and then we automatically think like Tommy John surgery. But I'm a big advocate for stressing the organism. Now that looks like what? Training. Okay, so for me, I've talked about this a lot in the past as well. My ability to recover, I firmly believe my ability to recover from a throwing aspect is really good because I throw a lot, right? So like, it's funny, I just was in Puerto Rico playing winter ball, and I would always be the last one done throwing. I would always be the guy that was like long tossing every day and all these things, and everyone would ask like, how do you throw so much? What the heck? Like, how? And I'm like, well, I throw so much because I can throw so much. Like, I can throw so much because I throw so much, right? Like, are you You guys catching on? Like I believe that holds a lot true. Now, the thing that I see a lot of kids kind of miss the boat on is they have this brake pedal approach, and I think it's not really necessarily their fault because they're a product of this environment, this new age baseball industry, where and I get it, like no one wants to get Tommy John surgery at 12, but there's this brake pedal approach, like, hey, limit the pitch count, limit the throws. If you're a pitcher, only be a pitcher. Like don't throw from shortstop. All of these things, and I just think that mentality and that physical training over time is is kind of like the worst thing for you, because you're not really necessarily stressing the organism that as much as you can, and then you get into game performance, and then you're asking the organism, you're asking your body, you're asking your arm to do this great athletic feat when it's maybe not prepared to do that over and over again, right? Now, obviously, it looks different for guys coming out of the pen, guys starting, like always looks different. So now to really hammer on some of the things that I do, just to kind of go through this list of topics that I wanted to touch on, was first one, again, recovery is not just something you do for a set amount of hours after you throw, or a routine. Like, yes, we can have routines, pre-throw routines, post-throw routines. We can have all of those that help in terms of the recovery process. I believe that too. I do that as well with like pre and post-throw routines. I don't really deem them as like quote unquote recovery routines, because if we were to really be technical, my recovery routines are like everything I do, because everything I'm doing is not only assisting in like my development and my performance, but recovery is also assisting in my development and performance, right? I can't develop if I'm not recovered to then train to develop. Whoa, inception. So hopefully that makes sense. And again, if you've been following me for a while, you know I'm a complete nerd in regards to earthing and being connected to the earth, or grounding, whatever you want to call it. I believe there's extremely high amounts of benefits in regards to like earthing and grounding from a recovery standpoint, from an inflammation standpoint, like the electromagnetic charge, all of that stuff. I'm not even going to go into it. I'll link an article in the show notes. Again, that could be found at therobbyrowshow.com/recovery. I'll link an article that I always, send people that want to know more information in regards to why I earth and why I take my shoes off and socks off and walk around the outfield grass and get bit by ants. Another huge piece for me is I'm always drinking water. I drink about 1.5 gallons a day, and in season it's probably more. Now, with that being said, I do avoid. I don't really drink soda, like energy drinks, like all that stuff. I think that kind of also hurts. Doesn't get you to move the needle essentially in regards to your recovery. Always drinking water, hammering water. Talked about stress adaptation. Again, I believe stress adaptation isn't just your amount of throwing. You're not your throwing volume, but like stressing the organism, hot, cold exposure, training is stress. And anytime you stress the organism, it can then adapt and develop into a greater, more advanced, resilient is the word that I'm looking for, resilient organism. Okay. So like I said, that's throwing, that's temperature exposure. Like I do hot, I do sauna, sit in the sauna. Sunlight and Sauna is a company that I partnered with. What am I trying to say? Partnered with, and they sent me a like sauna pod, and it's freaking awesome. Like I feel like a superhero when I do my morning routine. Like today's morning routine was sitting in the sauna for about 45 minutes after my walk and after my mobility. And then right from there, I walked outside where it was like 37 degrees here in Northern California. And I sat in the ice tank for about 3 minutes before I just lost it. It was gold, man. But that's stress, right? And then you build resiliency after you do that. So that's another huge staple of like my quote unquote recovery routine is the fire and ice stuff. Even like in the shower, I take cold showers, I take contrast showers. If you want more information on all this stuff and how you can effectively stress the organism, I'd encourage you to just Google it yourself. Mind Strong Performance. My guy Harvey Martin does a lot of really, really good stuff. I'm going to try to get him on the pod soon in regards to this. Okay, and breathing. You guys know I'm a nerd when it comes to like the breathing and all that good stuff. So now here's where we'll dive into like 1 and 2, I would say, in regards to like optimal recovery. 1, sleep. Okay, sleep. This is something that I didn't really put a whole lot of emphasis on a couple years back because I always like felt lazy if I slept in. You know, I was always like, oh, I'm going to wake up at 3 a.m. because I want to show everyone that I'm grinding. Hoorah! You know, like, but as I got older, I realized like how important sleep is. And it's so important that I put that at the top of the priority when it comes to recovery. And showing that I put so much importance on it, I got 3 different trackers that track my sleep. You know, so I'm always gauging that, and I'm always kind of basing my workload that following day in regards to looking at like how do I sleep. Like last night, for example, I didn't sleep good. I think it's just because like my overall activity has been kind of low. So like, I don't know, my sleep just wasn't good last night. So my training today is going to be a little bit different than it would be if I slept, you know, my typical 8-9 hours. Sleep is huge, especially in season, man. I know it's hard, especially if you're a pro guy in the minor leagues or even a college guy taking flights or whatever it is. I know it's hard to get that optimal sleep, you know, but you got to find a way. You know, find a way, take naps. As I got older, I started finding like places in the clubhouse or even outside the clubhouse that are quiet, that I can even just take like a 30 minute like nap or 15-minute. Like those things make a difference. I'm telling you, man, like they really do. So put an emphasis on sleep. Now, what are some sleep protocols that you can do to optimize your sleep? For me personally, just speaking from my experience, I don't eat after 5 p.m. If I'm trying to go to bed at like 9, I don't eat after 5 p.m. I'm not, you know, consuming like soda, sugar, anything. Like alcohol is going to kill your sleep. I think everyone kind of knows that. But not eating close to bed and limiting my blue light exposure. So you guys see, if you're watching this on YouTube, I got these blue light blocking glasses. Blue light is everywhere now. You know, I would encourage you to research that as well. I also have a bad habit of sometimes laying in bed before bed and getting on my phone. But if I'm being really intentional and I'm really on fire, I'll put my phone in a different room. And I'll put it on like airplane mode or whatever, put it in a different room and just read a book before I go to bed. Like try to limit your blue light about an hour to 2 hours before you go to bed. I also do like Sleepytime Tea. I'll do a little bit of box breathing, meditation before bed. What else do? I do a shower before bed, probably like 90 minutes to 2 hours before bed, but it's extremely hot to downregulate the central nervous system. When I was big into, I mean, I still am big into the cold showers, but like when I was super oorah about cold showers, I would even do a cold shower before bed, and I started to realize that my central nervous system would fire up, and I wouldn't get as much deep sleep as I wanted to. So now it's kind of just hot showers, maybe a little bit of cold in the beginning, and then end on hot. What other sleep protocols? I do some supplements. Melatonin, try not to fall in love with that. There's a lot of stuff in regards to sleep supplements that kind of scare me, to be honest, because I don't want to get to a point where I'm reliant on that to get a good night's sleep. I feel weird about that stuff. So I try not to, but if it's one of those days where maybe I had to push my training back and I ended up training late, then maybe melatonin, like 1 to 2 milligrams of melatonin, L-Theanine in my Sleepytime Tea. I do about 100 milligrams of L-Theanine, maybe some GABA. I'm getting really nerdy on you guys. I apologize if you're just a high school kid saying like, what the heck is all this? Discount code Robby on bulk supplements, though, if you want to dive into that. If you want more information, honestly, just shoot me an email, therobbyrowshow.com/ask, because I can nerd out on that and all the supplementation you can use for like a sleep stack if you want. And then, so 1 was sleep protocols, sleep, most important in regards to recovery. 2, nutrition. This is something that I didn't really get a full grasp on until I got older, but like the importance of nutrition and how that affects everything, man, everything. I used to be somebody that, I mean, I still am somebody that can eat like brownies every single day or cookies every single day and not really like get fat per se. I'm just very active and a good metabolism for now. And I used to kind of just get away with that, thinking like, oh, I can do this, like I can indulge, and it doesn't affect me. I can still go out and perform. Like, no, 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 it catches up to you, you know? So it wasn't until probably I was like 2018 is when I really started taking like nutrition seriously. Like I would go ketogenic, learned about, you know, the, how kind of carbohydrates will influence a little bit more inflammation and so on and so forth. Now, I say all this, I'm not a nutritionist. You know, don't take my word as absolute, but in regards to things that help me and things that I've kind of implemented within my protocols to optimize my recovery, just some things there. 1, sleep. 2, nutrition. Extremely important. Now, I will say in regards to sleep, now as baseball players, and again, I've been there. I was just there in winter ball, coming out of the pen, late inning guys. What's the thing to do? Pre-workout to the face, you know, or maybe like a coffee. That stuff affects your sleep. You know, I really started realizing that, and then it's tough, right? Because then you got to ask the question of like, all right, what's more important, like being amped up for this potential inning that I could throw, or like having the ability to go out again tomorrow and be tip top, be great. Because trust me, I've been there, especially with like late inning guys out of the pen. That's tough. Like I've been a closer, and although closing's one of my favorite roles out of all of like baseball positions, it's also the hardest on your body because like you're so amped up. You probably just did a scoop of pre-workout or like a coffee or something sort of caffeine amp up type thing at like what 10 p.m. at night. And then you're amped up, like you get the save and the game's over, and then it's like, holy smokes, how do I downregulate my nervous system? So with that being said, if you are somebody that does that, try to, you know, get into a hot tub or something, you know, do a lot of meditating, do a lot of journaling after your games, like find something that can just really just disconnect you. Right. But that's always helped me. Like as a starter, it's going to be different because obviously there's that time, but I had a really good routine as a starter where as soon as I got done, like, yeah, I would do maybe some bands and some plyos or whatever, like wasn't really honestly that much, but then I would go in and I would like fire up the hot tank and I get to like 105, 110 degrees. And while I was in the hot tank, it was only for about 5 minutes, but while I was in there, that's when I did my post throwing or my post outing, like journaling. And it just like allowed me to kind of focus and then get a little bit zen, right? So that's what I have. Hopefully that help. I would say like maybe the weird things that I hit on is like the earthing. The earthing is something that I really do believe a lot in, especially like if you're by a beach. Oof, that's like the number one earthing destination in the world, the beach. Always drinking water. Try to avoid like sugary drinks, man. Sugar is your enemy. Focus on electrolytes. Ultima Replenisher. Ultima Replenisher is a company that I partnered with that has a sugar-free electrolyte mix. And it comes in little packets or in a little bottle. I'll link that in the show notes as well. But I would just say it's tough because I know you want to, especially as an athlete, you want to get like amped up, and that sometimes is like those sugary energy drinks and whatnot, or even like bangs they claim. I mean, yeah, technically they're sugary, but they got a whole bunch of other stuff in it. I had a bang yesterday, so I'm with you guys. And then the fire and ice stuff like contrast, cold showers, cold, hot showers, 10 seconds hot, 20 seconds cold, repeat about 10, 20 times. Throwing volume, sleep protocols, nutrition. I'll try to write like some sleep stacks from a supplement that I use to optimize sleep, and maybe it could benefit you. I'll throw that in the show notes as well. therobbyroshow.com/recovery. And I'm going to do sleep stacks from bulk supplements because I'm partnered with them. You're welcome. All right. Hopefully this helped, guys. I really do. Hopefully this will be good. I think there's a lot of kind of unknown. And look, the most important thing out of all this is like the trial and error with yourself, right? Like these are all things that I know for sure help and assist and aid in my recovery, which then assists and aid in my ability to be optimal every single time I touch a baseball and the game's on the line, or there's a guy in the box, or like I'm performing to win a game, or whatever it is. Like, these are things that work for me, and I know that because I can find the absolutes for myself. Intentional trial and error process, and I would encourage you, if you're going on a journey of self-discovery, of trying to find what works and what doesn't, write it down. And again, I've been somebody that thinks, like, I don't need to write it down, I'll just remember it. You won't. Write it down. I did this today, I did that tomorrow, or I did that yesterday. This is how I felt. And don't give it just one day like that. That's a pretty small sample size, but give it like weeks out on time. You know, oh, I was drinking this before bed, or I went 2 weeks without my phone before bed. I was reading a book instead. This is how good my sleep got. I use Oura Ring to track my sleep. I'm about to partner with Whoop as well, so I'll give you guys some reviews on that coming up. Yeah. All right. Show notes, therobbyrowshow.com/recovery. I'll try to include all of the content that I mentioned in this podcast and that. And do your guys' part. Share this with someone that maybe could benefit from it, because that's the goal. That's the mission. Allow my understanding through my journey's experience to better assist you in your journey. It's like a catchphrase, slogan type thing that needs a lot of work. All right, guys, much love. As always, God bless. Enjoy your day. Until next time, I'll applause myself out. Yeah. See you guys.